my name is Steve Schmiller. Welcome to my channel and to my studio. So I was just working on this drawing, and while doing so, I thought I would put together a list of tips that were on my mind. They're not in any particular order, just because they're not, but I put them in an order so that the last one, which is the best one, will make you watch till the end. So please do so and enjoy. All right, so tip number 7 is pre-planning. There's an old saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and it's definitely very true with this kind of artwork. The thing is, realistic, detailed artwork requires a plan. And if you've ever gone really far into an artwork only to realize it's not working out, that's what you failed to do, was to pre-plan. So for example, this drawing is actually just a study of part of a larger composition that I did in other sketches. Before that, I did tons of very small thumbnail sketches to begin with, just to give you an idea of what's going on. This was actually part of a different composition that had a different background, but the little girl in the bottom left corner was the constant, and that's the part I wanted to keep for this one. So I practiced that part over and over again. This will actually become part of a larger painting that is going to take at least 100 hours. So for anything that's going to take me a lot of time, I make sure that I pre-plan so that I don't go too far and realize that something's just not working. Tip number 6 is practice perfect gradients. So we've all seen these things before, grayscale, but how many of us have actually practiced drawing one with full effort? Think about a beautiful sky, something like that. We don't have to draw just a grayscale, but in a drawing like this, it's full of tons of little gradients that are very subtle and smooth looking. So keep in mind, students at traditional realist ateliers practice these things, and they're expected to take even days and weeks just for the most basic assignments. So that's how we create the illusion of soft light and rounded curved forms, is by getting really good at these. So tip number 5 is do not draw exact detail. Instead, create the illusion of detail. So what I mean by that is not copying something exactly, like a camera and a printer being some kind of a robot. What we want to do is bring our human soul into this and try to find a way to get into the zone, so to speak, while we're drawing. We want to find patterns that our pencils or our paintbrushes do naturally that create the look of something without actually copying it millimeter by millimeter. By doing this, we kind of become like jazz musicians who are improvising a solo straight from the soul rather than reading off of sheet music they've never heard before. Tip number 4 is rehearse the toughest parts first, which means that every image has a focal point, of course, and if it's figurative work, it's going to be the face, it's going to be a person. So make sure that those things are understood. So for this drawing, I went into other sketchbooks and I just rehearsed things, get to know that angle of the face, what makes it look the way that it does, by moving the eye down, at what age the sort of like the cheek becomes a little bit more chubby or less, by facial expressions, like what it looks like to move the jaw down a little bit. So by rehearsing these things first, we get so much better at it on scrap paper rather than trying to do all these things on our precious finished drawing. Now keep in mind, this is what sketchbooks are for. I think there's unfortunately one too many social media channels or pages that shares finished artworks that are done edge to edge, both sides of the paper within sketchbooks. That can be very impressive looking, but how do you frame those? How do you sell those individually and display them individually, right? So sketchbooks are for this. They're for experimenting and trying out all the tough parts in your own personal practice. So tip number 3 is another short one. It is not to finish or not feel the need to finish all lines and edges perfectly straight, ruler straight, all the way solid. This one is a little counterintuitive, and this is something that I would not have guessed when I first started drawing and painting. It's almost like our instinct when we're beginners. We always want to see if we can make things look perfect and have these perfect solid lines of things. But instead, it's more interesting actually if we have things that are not completed, because the viewer already knows what it is. It just breaks the image up a bit. It makes it look like there could be some light or some movement at play, and it really helps to to make something look more interesting than just exactly a straight line. It's almost like creating dots for someone else to connect. The eye of the viewer is really good at connecting and finishing those dots, so if we connect everything for them, then the eye of the viewer has nothing to do. Now, tip number 2 is bracing the hand. This goes for very realistic, sort of refined looking work. Of course, if you're working in a looser kind of a way, then this might not be for you. But there's many ways to do this, and I would recommend experimenting. It's not just about bracing the hand really, but it's actually about getting comfortable, just physically being comfortable while you're working, not working in a way that feels restricted, where your elbow doesn't have any place to move. So in this case, I use a U-channel bar with a couple pieces of wood attached to it. That elevates it about 1/8 of an inch or 3 or 4 millimeters above the surface of the paper. And then I've even also just used this, which is just a T-bar ruler, and hung it over top of the edge, as you've seen in the clips. And that way my hand touches the plastic part and I can still see the drawing through there. And it doesn't, even if it did move a little bit, it's not going to ruin the drawing or smudge it like the palm of my hand would. So before I get to the final big tip, I will remind you to go check out my website, other videos on my channel, of course. If you want to support my channel in the meantime, please go to Buy Me a Coffee. And I will also have courses available eventually, so you can also check those out in the future. And let me know in the meantime in the comments if you think you would ever like to see that. That's always encouraging to me. The more comments I get about that, the more motivation I get to hurry up and make that sooner, instead of spending most of my time on my artwork, which is actually what I really want to do. So the main big tip number 1 is, drum roll, quality control. Listen to yourself first. There's so many times, I've seen this happen actually in person when I've been at shared studio spaces with other artists, that they're having a problem with something and the friend comes to visit and says, "Oh, it looks fine. What are you talking about? You're just being too much of a perfectionist. It looks great to me." If there's something that bothers you, it's going to keep bothering you forever. Every time you look at that drawing online or in a print or wherever you see it. So just make sure that you please yourself first. Keep in mind that sometimes our friends and family are not the people that we want to tell us how to finish our work. So if something bothers you, it's worth fixing. In this drawing, I went back to the face so many times, and I would say that, I mean, it's still a study, right? So I can change it when I actually do the painting, but I went and I changed the eyes, I changed the mouth, I changed the cheek line, I changed the hair, I actually erased the hair quite a lot, and then redrew it, because it kind of felt like the top of the hair was like short and then it was like long on the back only. So I had to go in and fix some of those strands and just kind of make it work a lot better. And now I like it a lot more. So it is worth doing in this style of art. You have to listen to yourself first for that ultimate quality control. Well, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I don't know why you're still here, but thanks for still being here and not liking it. Leave comments. I love comments. I try to get back to all of them. I'll leave this with a pan of the finished drawing.